So I gave myself a challenge today at work. 9 hours of, yeah. Anyways, come up with an all hockey guy team for 2017-18. Now I'm going to say first off, I'm not talking about these are the greatest players. These aren't all the Hart Trophy candidates. These are the guys that I cheer for. The guys that bring me out of my seat when I'm watching games. And so some of them will be all-stars, some of them will not. And I'm going to go in order for each position as according to NHL.com. So sometimes they don't play these positions. Some of these guys move around, but you know what? That's fine. So first off, my favorite left winger, Jamie Benn of Dallas. Surprising? Nobody. Next up, Victor Arvidsson. Hands up. Anybody that's surprised to see Arvidsson here? Okay, you're new. Okay, that's fine. Next up. Ryan Dzingel. You surprised? Then you're new. These are all names of guys that I bring up a lot. And fourth, Artemi Panarin of Columbus. So you've got Dallas, Nashville, Ottawa, and Columbus. Not bad. Down the middle, this is where it gets tricky. Bo Horvat's my favorite center in the league. Barely. Patrice Bergeron would be number 2 from Boston. So Patrice Bergeron is at 2. There we go. Make him a little bit bigger, a little easier to read. Number 3. Dallas is the first one I've got 2 players up here for. Tyler Seguin's number 3 at center. And number 4, Tampa's Braden Point. So again, people ask regularly, who are your favorite players? Here's the list. So you guys can make a mental note of this, and when you guys watch reviews, you'll notice I talk about these guys a bit. Number 1 right winger. This won't surprise anybody. And he's the captain because he's my favorite right now, and that's Brock Besser of the Vancouver Canucks. He's out for the rest of the year. The good news for him, he doesn't have to play these games where the Canucks are just hot garbage. My second favorite from Carolina, Sebastian Aho. Aho is a guy that I was a big fan of coming into this year, and there were some that thought that he'd have a sophomore jinx, and he hasn't. No, Carolina's been a disappointment. They haven't really been what we'd hoped they'd be, at least what I'd hoped they'd be. But Sebastian's played as well as he did last year. Number 3, and this one surprises me. There was a time when Phil Kessel was a Boston Bruin, and I couldn't stand him. Then he went to Toronto, and I remember that trade, and I laughed a lot when I'd look at it and be like, all right, we got Sagan and Hamilton, and they got Kessel. They got ripped. You know what? Kessel in Pittsburgh is hilarious, and he's self-deprecating, and he's everything that I think he's always wanted to be but couldn't be because he was under a microscope, and now that he's not the main guy, he can just relax and just be himself, and he's having a lot of fun. So he's on the list for me. And number 4 from St. Louis, Vlad Tarasenko. So I have my favorite teams. That's obvious. It'd be Vancouver, Boston, and Dallas. Everybody knows this. But look at my favorite players. They're not all from the same team. Favorite defenseman? Okay, so we got another Boston Bruin on the board, and that's Charlie McAvoy, and it's not really close. And Torrey Krug from Boston would come in second. That shows, like, okay, it's all going to be Boston now. Not quite. Erik Karlsson from Ottawa is the dude's just he's such a warrior, and anytime there's microphones on at ice level, he is the guy you're hearing yelling and screaming. If you're watching an Ottawa game and you're like, who's doing all that yelling? It's Karlsson. He's very, very vocal. He's very vocal towards teammates, opposition, and referees. Number 4. I know Johnny Boychuk's had a down year. I know the whole Islanders team has had somewhat of a down year. Boychuk's still one of my favorite defensemen. And I love his game, and I really, yeah, to this day, Boychuk is one of my favorites. Number 5. Carolina's Noah Hanifin. Noah Hanifin's on the list. He's a guy I've been pulling for since he became a draftee of the Carolina Hurricanes, and I still think there's a bright future for the Hurricanes if they can get their heads out of their. They can definitely become something special with that blue line and all that youth. They just need some leadership and probably better goaltending. Probably. And number 6 from Vegas, Colin Miller. Now he threw a dirty hit last year for Boston that I was very upset about. But outside of that, and there's a video for that on this channel, outside of that, I've always liked Colin Miller's game, and I'm still upset to this day the Bruins gave him up, and he's playing great for Vegas, and I wish him nothing but the best. So in goal, number 1 is Florida's Roberto Luongo. Of course he is. And his backup, the number 2 guy, Tuukka Rask. So if you're wondering who just missed the cut, who I had to scratch out, and I did have to scratch some out, Ryan Miller in goal, Vladimir Sobotka, Alexander Barkov, Radek Faksa, and Andre Kashe of the Anaheim Ducks. So there's your honorable mentions. Mitch Marner also gets an honorable mention, but there were a lot of centers. So Mitch Marner's in there for an honorable mention. That's the All Hockey Guy team. So whenever you're saying, who does he cheer for, this gives you a good idea of which players I'm cheering for when I watch a hockey game. And this is part of the reason why in terms of how I watch hockey, I'm more into the players than I am the teams. Unless it's Boston, Vancouver, or Dallas, and to some extent Ottawa, although they're just not very good this year, so I don't get emotionally invested in their games. And for Florida, definitely this year. But Florida has a lot of guys that I cheer for, and tonight a lot of those guys got goals, and we'll get into that when I get into the review on March 20th of 2018, just in case you're watching this later. But there you go. If there's an All THG team, that's it. Let me know your picks in the comment section below. Show me left wing, center, right wing, defense. This is kind of a fun thing. 4, 4, 4, 6, and 2. And obviously this isn't how the lines would line up at all. Those are just from my favorite to least favorite in the top 4 of each spot. And 6 for defense and 2 for goaltender. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.